There is something different about people who study and practice Stoicism. You can sense it in how they carry themselves, how they respond to problems, how they make decisions under pressure. They seem to possess an inner calm and strength that most people desperately wish they had but have no idea how to develop. Today, I am going to reveal exactly what Stoics do differently that makes them mentally unstoppable in a world full of chaos, uncertainty, and emotional volatility. Stay until the end because understanding these 9 distinctions will give you a complete blueprint for developing the same unshakable mindset that has made Stoic practitioners leaders and achievers for over 2,000 years. The first thing Stoics do differently is they separate facts from stories. Most people experience events through the filter of their interpretations, assumptions, and emotional reactions. They cannot tell the difference between what actually happened and what they think it means. But Stoics train themselves to identify objective facts separate from subjective interpretations. When something goes wrong, they ask what exactly happened versus what story am I telling myself about what happened. This single distinction prevents most emotional suffering because suffering comes not from events themselves, but from our mental stories about events. Practice this by describing challenging situations using only verifiable facts first. Then separately examine what assumptions, interpretations, or meaning you are adding to those facts. Usually, you will discover that your distress comes from the story, not the facts, and stories can be changed while facts must be accepted. The second thing Stoics do differently is they focus on responses instead of circumstances. Average people spend enormous mental energy complaining about, worrying about, and trying to control their circumstances. Stoics spend their energy planning and executing their responses to circumstances. They understand that circumstances are often outside their control, but responses are always within their control. This shift from external focus to internal focus is the foundation of personal power. Instead of asking why is this happening to me, they ask how can I respond to this in a way that builds my character and moves me toward my goals. Instead of trying to change what is outside their influence, they maximize their influence over what they can actually control. The third thing Stoics do differently is they practice negative visualization regularly. This sounds pessimistic, but it is actually one of the most powerful tools for appreciation and preparedness. Stoics regularly imagine losing things they value, facing challenges they fear, or experiencing setbacks they hope to avoid. This mental exercise serves 2 purposes. It increases gratitude for what they currently have, and it mentally prepares them for difficulties, so they are not psychologically devastated when problems arise. Spend a few minutes weekly imagining losing your job, your health, your relationships, or your possessions. Not to create anxiety, but to appreciate what you have and mentally rehearse how you would handle these challenges with dignity and wisdom if they occurred. The fourth thing Stoics do differently is they define success internally rather than externally. Most people measure their success by external achievements, other people's opinions, social status, wealth accumulation, or comparison to others. Stoics measure success by internal standards. Did I act according to my values today? Did I respond to challenges with wisdom and virtue? Did I grow in character and understanding? Did I contribute positively to others? This internal definition of success makes them immune to external validation and criticism, because their sense of achievement does not depend on factors outside their control. They can succeed even when external circumstances are difficult because success is defined by their choices and character, rather than by outcomes and recognition. The fifth thing Stoics do differently is they embrace obstacles as training opportunities. While most people see problems as interruptions to their happiness or roadblocks to their goals, Stoics see obstacles as chances to practice their principles and strengthen their character. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the impediment to action advances action, and what stands in the way becomes the way. Every difficulty is a chance to practice patience, courage, wisdom, or perseverance. Every setback is an opportunity to demonstrate resilience and problem-solving skills. This mindset transforms problems from threats into training, from sources of stress into sources of growth. When you face your next challenge, ask yourself, what virtue does this situation allow me to practice? How can this difficulty make me stronger or wiser? What can I learn from this experience that will serve me in the future? The sixth thing Stoics do differently is they maintain emotional equilibrium through rational thinking. They do not suppress emotions or pretend difficult feelings do not exist. Instead, they examine their emotions rationally to understand what thoughts and beliefs are creating those emotional states. They recognize that emotions are information about their mental interpretations, not direct responses to external events. When they feel angry, they examine what expectation was violated. When they feel anxious, they identify what they are trying to control that is outside their power. When they feel disappointed, they look at what attachment they formed to a specific outcome. This rational examination allows them to address the root causes of emotional disturbance rather than just managing the symptoms. The seventh thing Stoics do differently is they practice voluntary simplicity to reduce dependency. They deliberately reduce their attachment to luxury, convenience, and material possessions. Not because these things are evil, but because dependency on external things for happiness creates vulnerability. The more you need specific conditions to be content, the more fragile your contentment becomes. Stoics cultivate the ability to be happy with less, so they are not controlled by the need for more. They can enjoy abundance when it is available while remaining peaceful when it is not. Practice this by occasionally choosing simpler options when complex ones are available. Walk instead of driving when practical. Eat simple meals occasionally. Sleep in basic accommodations sometimes. Wear basic clothes. These practices prove to yourself that happiness does not require luxury. The eighth thing Stoics do differently is they take full responsibility for their experience without taking responsibility for others' choices. This balance is crucial. They accept complete accountability for their thoughts, actions, responses, and results without making excuses or blaming circumstances. But they do not try to control or take responsibility for other people's decisions, emotions, or life outcomes. This clear boundary between self-responsibility and other responsibility eliminates both victim mentality and controlling behavior. They work to influence positive outcomes while accepting that they cannot guarantee specific results. They give their best effort while detaching from outcomes that depend on factors beyond their control. The ninth thing Stoics do differently is they maintain perspective through the view from above. They regularly zoom out from their immediate concerns to see their problems in the context of human history, the vastness of the universe, and the temporary nature of all circumstances. This cosmic perspective prevents them from being overwhelmed by temporary difficulties or becoming too attached to temporary successes. Marcus Aurelius regularly reminded himself that his current challenges would be completely forgotten in 100 years, and that the universe is vast beyond human comprehension. This perspective helps maintain emotional balance and prevents small problems from feeling like major catastrophes. When facing difficulties, ask yourself, how much will this matter in 10 years? How does this problem compare to what people throughout history have endured and overcome? How can I maintain dignity and wisdom while dealing with this temporary situation? These 9 distinctions create a completely different experience of life. Instead of being controlled by circumstances, Stoics control their responses to circumstances. Instead of being victims of their emotions, they use emotions as information. Instead of being dependent on external conditions for happiness, they generate happiness internally. Instead of being overwhelmed by problems, they see problems as opportunities for growth. This does not make them cold or indifferent. It makes them effective, resilient, and genuinely helpful to others because they operate from strength rather than neediness, wisdom rather than reactivity, purpose rather than random impulse. The ancient Stoics were not trying to avoid life's difficulties. They were developing the tools to handle life's difficulties with excellence. They were not seeking a life without challenges. They were becoming people who could transform challenges into character, obstacles into opportunities, setbacks into comebacks. These 9 practices are available to you right now. You do not need special training, expensive courses, or perfect conditions to begin implementing them. You just need the commitment to think differently about how you approach your daily experiences. Start with the distinction that resonates most strongly with your current challenges and practice it consistently until it becomes automatic. Then add the next one. Over time, these ways of thinking will transform not just how you handle problems, but how you experience life itself. If you want to develop the unstoppable mindset of the Stoics, tell me in the comments which of these 9 practices you are most excited to implement. And if you want more practical philosophy for daily excellence, subscribe and turn on notifications. The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is often just the difference between average thinking and Stoic thinking.